Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind, these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, folks, here we are on Sunday, February 13th. We're going to take a look at SoFi before the week ahead gets started. Now, I do want to address a couple things at the top. I have had a lot of folks sending me messages, what's up with the SoFi videos. A couple of things. I thought I had mentioned this in the last video, but maybe not. One thing is I'm sort of toying with a bunch of different things with trading and the market, and that stuff is taking up a lot of time, but in the future I'll be putting out some videos on some of my findings, which I think will be interesting and maybe useful to some folks, and so I'll be sharing those, but it is taking a lot of time, and sorry it's pretty vague what I'm saying, but it'll make sense over time. So most of it is a time constraint, but also a large part is, I did daily SoFi updates for a long time, and a lot of times it's just very repetitive, right? And I know in some cases that was helpful to people, even though it was repetitive. And I expect the cadence to pick back up again, but I also feel for the most part, since the market's been so choppy and rocky lately, that SoFi has sort of stuck to what I've called out in like a once a week video. It's mostly paying attention to the dollar and the 50 cent, right? It's treating those as support and resistance levels, so it seems. So think 11.50, 12, 12.50, 13. And also it's, largely getting dragged around with the market. You could look at IWM or QQQ or what have you. But day to day watching it, you can see it sort of getting dragged around with the market, or even just with fintech, on whole. And certainly some extra herky-jerkiness with earnings and how that might throw sort of some sympathies SoFi's way, or I guess be that a bullish sympathy or a bearish sympathy. But that's sort of why I kind of feel like it's unless something crazy new happens, it just feels repetitive. And also, there's these other things taking up my time at the moment, which I think will be beneficial to the channel in the long run. But for the time being, it's causing my posting frequency to come down quite a bit. So that's all that housekeeping stuff. Now, SoFi in particular, now if we just sort of like recalibrate where we are, I do think, and we'll zoom in on the 5-day, 5-minute here after we get through the daily. I do, like I said, predominantly think it's paying attention to the 50 cents and the dollar levels at any level. And we see that playing out here, right? 12 is resistance, 12 is resistance, and then we get a nice jump up, 6% on this day. And then it's batting around between 12 and 13 basically. So what's between 12 and 13? 12.50. So it's just kind of hanging around these areas, as we had mentioned. Came down here and caught this wick just above 11. Caught this low here at 10.51, right? So that's the 50 cents in the dollar that I keep talking about. Now, it did try to stretch up not only over the $13 level here, but over this downtrend resistance, which these are the 3 resistance levels that I was mostly paying attention to. You see when it broke this one, the steepest resistance here, the most aggressive resistance, it did have a nice jump up, right? And jumped up right through this second most aggressive resistance, and it has struggled with that third sort of softer, it's not softer in the sense of it's weaker, but it's just a softer trajectory. That is struggling with that third resistance. But that said, in the past week or so, it did overcome these initial 2 resistance levels. Now, can it stick to it? Hopefully, because it would take a pretty steep drop to find it falling back under this one, and certainly back under this one would be pretty catastrophic. But we'll see, if it can break this level here, and, which will essentially mean that it gets support over 13, I think, then there could be some sort of ability to situate itself there, build a base, build a range, what have you, and maybe find some wiggle room ahead of earnings, and sort of get on a different path ahead of earnings. We'll see. Oh, that said, also with earnings coming up, I will be doing some stuff around earnings. So I know even if my videos continue to be a little bit scarce on SoFi, I will certainly jump in and do a bunch about earnings and the outcomes and stuff like that. For the time being, I'm a little bit I worry about how treacherous the earnings could be, not because I necessarily think that they're going to have something bad to say. I'm really hopeful that the guidance is strong because of the bank charter and that can help carry it through, but we'll see. I'm mostly just nervous because of the overall situation in the markets and how growth stocks are sort of being viewed and played at this point in time. And it's situated at this pretty low price point. And I know for some folks that gives them hope to say, okay, well then hopefully it wouldn't get beat up after earnings because it's already trading relatively low. I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum on that, where I feel like I've seen a lot of times, I'm sure there's examples that are the opposite of this, but something relatively beaten down or feeling pretty cheap, and then earnings comes through and it just gets bludgeoned even further. So I'm a little bit concerned, but that also doesn't mean anything, right? It's not like I have a crystal ball and I can predict what's going to happen with earnings. Even if they're good earnings or even if they're bad earnings, the reaction that you would expect with those outcomes could go completely 180 degrees in the opposite direction. So it's just a feeling that I have, but I just wanted to share because also some folks have been asking me about that, and I had mentioned that in other places, I think specifically on Twitter. But in any case, here's the 5-day chart. So this, going back to the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th. I don't know why it doesn't just pull in last Monday as well. But in any case, you see us coming up here, right, just shy of 1250, so about 1240, and then coming back down, ultimately finding a bottom here at 1153. So surprise, surprise, the 50 and the dollar, and then finding some stickiness here at 12, rising into the trading day, and then coming up and falling here 12.99. It looks like this candle was it's 12.95 it says, but just shy of 13, coming back down, hanging out in the mid 12s, and then this huge range, right? This coming up 1341, right? So pretty close to 1350, and then dropping all this. Is the real sad face day, right? This is the old sad face pattern we talked about. But in any case, coming back down and situating itself closer to 12 as we went into Friday, and then again trying to stretch up over 13, got rejected. Here as well at 13, and then the big sell-off, of course, in the afternoon, and ultimately situating itself in the after hours 1260. And so again, I just think what this screams to me is, yeah, there's been pretty good range here, which is good for traders, right? Maybe not, well, maybe fine for investors also, but anyone who's good or has some skill at trading volatility, like big swings up or down, this could have presented opportunities for those folks to make some trades off of that volatility. And these two sad faces in a row, certainly not how you'd want to end the week, and maybe a lot of folks getting faked out there, bull traps if you will. But we'll have to see how it plays out in the week ahead. But like I said, for me on the daily, I'm mostly paying attention to this third resistance level, and to $13 and to $12.50 and to $12 for the time being. And if it breaks through any of those zones, then I still think until it starts to show otherwise, I'm still just paying attention to the 50 cent and the dollar, be it up or down, support or resistance. And that's mostly what I'm looking at. This downtrend resistance, what's going to happen there, and the 50 cent and the dollar at any particular price point. All right, folks, I hope your trading week gets off to a good start tomorrow. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.